You might call it flow, muse, God. Science just shrugs and says, cross-hemispheric neural coherence. But you and I both know, that's just code for it. You've finally got your mind out of its own way. So, when both sides of your brain stop arguing, logic takes intuition's hand, and the dance begins. And that is when the idea arrives, instead of being forced. That's when you stop thinking and start knowing. It's like when a child forgets their learning and just builds sandcastles. One moment, they're the architect of empires. The next, they're laughing at the tide reclaiming it. That's flow. When creation and destruction stop fighting and realise they've been married all along. And you already do this. When you lose track of time in a song. When a conversation turns into a portal. When you sense someone's mood before they speak. That's the same circuitry that mystics call channeling. Science calls it alpha-theta brain synchronization. Same thing, different vocabulary. So let's chunk up to the big picture. What's the point of learning to channel intuition? Because your intuition is your internal GPS that updates faster than logic can type coordinates. Ignore it too long, and life throws you detours, burnout, confusion, regret. The universe's version of recalculating message. Now chunk down. Notice the sensations right before an intuitive hit. Maybe a pressure behind the eyes. Maybe a warmth in the chest. Maybe a whisper of this way. That's your body syncing its hemispheres. Your neurons rehearsing coherence. When you follow that feeling, you train the circuit deeper. Hebbian learning. Neurons that fire together wire together. And when you ignore it, that connection weakens. Karma. Neuroscience style. Think of intuition like Wi-Fi. When you're anxious or judgmental, it's like too many tabs open. Signal drops. When you breathe, relax, focus, the channel clears. And just like that, you download a file called Next Right Step. Open it and it's blank. Because the data unfolds only when you move. That's how the universe teaches responsibility. Action decodes the message. Faith writes the code. Now what happens if you resist this? You get stuck in loops, overthinking, procrastination, analysis paralysis. That's your left brain, trying to hold the paintbrush, while the right brain screams, "Let me paint." Eventually, the muse stops knocking and starts throwing things. Missed opportunities, restless nights, existential dread. But when you surrender, when you let both hemispheres collaborate like lovers rediscovering each other, that's when you feel the hum, the coherence. The scientist calls it synchronization. The monk calls it enlightenment. The artist calls it being in the zone. And you just call it home. Now imagine what happens when you live from that space more often. You speak differently. Less trying to impress, more trying to express. You work differently. Less pushing, more allowing. You love differently. Less need, more presence. That's not woo. That's neuroplasticity doing push-ups. So let's reframe a few beliefs. The limiting belief, I can't trust my intuition. You already do. Every time you blink before dust hits your eye, or cross the street before the car appears. Intuition isn't mystical. It's biological foresight, optimized by attention. The limiting belief, if I follow my intuition, I might be wrong. Of course you might. But every wrong turn still strengthens your internal map. Even GPSs need to drive to learn new roads. People will think I'm crazy. Every innovator looks insane until the world catches up to their nervous system. So let's go meta. When you model intuition, you're really modeling integration. Integration of science and spirit, left and right, logic and magic. You're teaching your neurology to remember it was never divided. It was just pretending to be for the sake of evolution. So what's the bigger purpose? When enough people live in coherence, the collective brain of humanity synchronizes. Empathy becomes natural. Creativity becomes effortless. War becomes boring. The future that unfolds from coherence, it's a civilization that stops needing saviors because everyone's listening to the same silent frequency. The one that says, do the next kind thing. So, remember the hum. Every time you breathe, every time you pause before reacting, every time you let a word arrive, instead of constructing it, you're tuning back into it. And as you do, coherence becomes habit. Habit becomes identity. Identity becomes destiny. And the funny thing about destiny, it was never waiting ahead of you. It's been whispering inside you the whole time, calling itself flow, muse, God, and occasionally answering to you.